Hello, the Mary Sue audience. My name is Alyssa. I'm one of the reporters, and today I have Maggie Mae Fish here. Maggie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, Mary Sue listeners. My name is Maggie Mae Fish. I'm a video essayist, writer, and actor. And yeah, we're chatting today about a lot of things, but most recently, the Unrated series, which talks about sex and gender screen. And it's on Nebula. And yeah, I'm the host and creator. I think that's about it, I think.
So this span off from an article I wrote talking about how much I loved Unrated, and then also broadening out to like the landscape of talking about sex online, especially like in on video platforms, especially on YouTube. Um, and Nebula reached out, and I got to interview the CEO, Dave, and now I'm here with Maggie, and I'm super excited. So we're gonna jump around a lot because I could not decide on an interview order. You've mentioned a few times, I think possibly in the show Unrated, which by the way is a Nebula original, for those listening in, that Steven Soderbergh, not Sondheim, as I've said when I told people I was interviewing you, Steven Soderbergh, uh, his comments on the sexlessness of the MCU inspired this video series. Could you kind of walk me through that process?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so when we were developing a show for Nebula, one of our main goals was to think of something that wouldn't go over well on YouTube, which we've had videos in the past get demonetized or flagged for adult content, even when it adheres to all of YouTube's rules. So yeah, very early on, sex was something I was thinking about covering. And then, yes, there was a wonderful interview with Steven Soderbergh, one of my favorite directors. And he had just the funniest answer to why he couldn't direct a Marvel movie. And that is, yeah, because no one fucks. And he doesn't know how to write a story with characters. Who don't at least have that as somewhat part of their life. Either they do fuck or they don't fuck, but it's, a thing that human beings do, which, yeah, just got us thinking about, we think of the past being very sex negative, but it's funny just to see how little sex there is now in modern media. And so yeah, this started kind of an exploration as to why that is, how the landscape has changed over the course of however many years, and yeah, covering the directors that push boundaries and are seminal to the discussion of sexual bodies on film.
If you had the resources, this is the time, the money, the energy afforded to more unrated episodes for you, but also I would watch them. What topics or works would you be interested in diving into? You could, if it helps to imagine this as season two, manifesting whatever, or like what was cut, it just what would you like to dive into, like a few topics?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I do want to say that very luckily on Nebula, the creator Broe Deschanel, who is amazing. I love her work. She has a new Nebula original called Taboo. Taboo on screen or taboo on film. I think just taboo.
I'm
Duh.
pulling it up while you're
Fact
talking.
check
You're
me.
good.
Yeah. Which is very much a spiritual successor of Unrated. So if you liked Unrated, you'll love Taboo. Which is great because that is kind of the thing of like how much time and energy, do we have? I'm so glad that Broe is uh working on her series. She just put out the first episode a week ago. It's great. But yeah, so if I got to do a season two, it's funny because we wanted to try to cover a lot of film history in 6 episodes, which was a little bit of an undertaking to do. So honestly, I'd like to go back and maybe do the same thing, cover the same eras of film, and just focus on maybe a lesser known director. We tried to, do directors that maybe no one has heard of, like Stephanie Rothman, who is very much maligned by her male peers during her time that she worked in Hollywood, all the way to Verhoeven, who, is a hugely successful director. So we try to do our best to balance it in season one. And I think with season two, I would try to focus on, yeah, all Stephanie Rothmans or all directors who maybe didn't get as much credit as should be due in their time working. Yeah.
I saw, I don't, how is recent is this? Oh, it is pretty, oh no, it's like a week old. That's a little bit behind for me, but that Taboo on Screen came to Nebula and I was super excited. I haven't watched it yet because I was like, I'm not gonna do it until after the interview. I need to focus. Um, if I would have known you were gonna bring it up, maybe I would have made time for it beforehand. But yeah, that is like quite an undertaking. I was like, how is she gonna do it? She does it with her videos on YouTube, but like, yeah, over 100 years. And something I mentioned in my article was like how, like, I don't think of the past as very sexless. Like, my background is in museum studies, and so like
Oh, wow.
with
That's
with
awesome.
with art, like I know people were talking, drawing, writing, um, sometimes through metaphor, sometimes very explicitly. It's just like as far as access, and I guess um, there's like these ebbs and flows of how much is permissible um, to bring out, especially outside of the home. Um, I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, but actually seeing like pre-code movies was like not world shattering because like I knew in theory, but like it's a different thing being told and reading like or even just somebody saying, yeah, more stuff was permissible, and then you showing it and going into detail. Like I knew, for example, Wings was like I think the first film that won like an Oscar, and I know through oh I'm blanking out of her name. Isabella from Be Kind Rewind had talked about like how even like the first like it being a war film, how that influenced like award history in Hollywood and stuff like that. Like I thought I knew a lot about Wings. I did not know what you brought to that conversation. Um, so yeah, like I lived all the episodes, but like that one is still like reverberating my consciousness.
Yeah. Well, also like as a lot of these things had somewhat covered in film class here and there, but also say like watching it, it's one thing to like read about it and maybe even like seeing a couple clips, but then to watch the whole to watch it is just like a wild experience. Yeah, like plus all the, historical context that, drapes around it. Yeah. I'll just say I too learned a lot from working on this.
We're talking about like reading and experiencing things, or like I guess reading about things and then actually watching it, kind of having a different experience. Something that I think is why I personally am drawn to like your work and a lot of other video essayists on YouTube that I don't want to list because then I'm gonna forget somebody. I will say Princess though for sure because I work
Yes.
with her.
Oh my God,
Um,
yes. We're
but
all big princess fans in the in this
yes,
household.
is that like I feel that the accessibility of what y'all bring to the table, not just because it's like on YouTube and YouTube is accessible, but like you're talking to everybody that may not have had the money or time to like go to school or even like I'm talking about higher education or take a class at a community college for whatever reason. Like I love how people are able to like continue engaging with things critically because of what y'all make. And even like me going through school and grad school, like one of my biggest things, me not wanting to graduate, is like I just love learning. Like I
Hmm.
it's very hard to replicate and also take out the good and the bad from kind of like a classroom to another platform other than I guess maybe like Skillshare, but it's different. I don't know. Kind of the
Hmm.
lecture format and yeah, I like there's like a little bit of formality with your work.
Hmm.
I guess writing it out helps. Writing a script and citing your sources. I had a question related to that, I promise. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Before watching the interview, or sorry, before starting the interview, I was watching your 200K celebration stream, the VOD, and somebody asked about how you go comparing two works, and you mentioned comparative analysis, and from like, I guess your formal education background, this is how this is connected. Um, do you have any techniques for like how you can enjoy art as like an audience member versus like, oh, I'm gonna make a video from this later. Oh, I need to write this down for possibly a narrative project that I'm working on.
Oh, Alyssa, that is a great question. And also what I have been working on with my therapist. In a way, I have turned the thing that I love, movies, into my job. So you're right. There is kind of like a thing where I sit down now and there is a little bit of an academic voice that's always there even while and but also I think the more that I have come to learn about film and analyzing it over analyzing it is just like the endless enjoyment I have for the medium and the form and the hard work that goes into filmmaking in every aspect. I think it's kind of it's almost like looking through a kaleidoscope where it's like the more I learn, the more that we learn, the more there is to enjoy in a way. So yeah, so even if there is something that I am watching academically, there's always a part of me that's watching it as an audience, as a feeling human being, as a person that's looking to respond to it as an art form. Uh, yeah, so I try to keep both in mind, even if I'm watching something for academic purposes. That being said, I do also love quote unquote bad movies. um and I like genuinely enjoy them. Some sure some of the fun is like laughing at the like formal mistakes or just like funny line readings, booms in the shot, things like that. But I also just like on a very like genuine level, I love watching people create and I love watching what is created out of that. Even if it's like a horrible mess, even if it's birdemic. Like I always feel a just overwhelming joy that it was made to begin with, regardless or not whether it's worth a critical academic discussion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that does help me keep a fresh perspective of like there is a somewhat like elitism in film. Absolutely. I mean, it's very patriarchal. It's very male dom, I could go down the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think like keeping that in mind that there is an artificiality of, how highly we regard some of these films. And yeah, watching having a double feature of, an Oscar nominated movie and something from, trash horror films. Like sounds like a great weekend to me. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
I think it did. I think I get dragged into watching bad movies. I'm not a fan, except for like I have a few, I have a few that
Uh,
are close to my heart. But
yes.
like I get dragged to them and I'm like, and then I end up enjoying myself after, but it's like
Mhm.
maybe I'll try that because I asked that like as like a question, but I also asked that as like a reporter. Like I watch stuff and then I'm like, how could I make this like a story idea? And I'm like, stop it, just enjoy it.
Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does also help to watch when we're, watching a movie for research, sometimes we'll find ourselves just watching a bunch of movies alone. But like having friends over, having like a watching it with a group of people, is also, I think, also helps me get out of my head. So,
Yeah.
yeah, group experience.
Another question I had was Maya, the director of communications, she mentioned that you are working on a queer feminist horror feature and that Unrated influenced that. What can you tell our audience about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I have been developing a script and yeah, kind of like what we say in the series. Um, it's very easy for queer media, feminine focused media, basically anything that isn't a straight white male focus. It's so much easier for those films to get lost between the cracks, but also just not discussed as much. For I think I guess obvious reasons, but also, going back to the episode of Stephanie Rothman and Cheryl Dunye, both have such like uh, I'm trying to think of the word like plush bodies of work, varied, interesting, provocative work that is hardly ever discussed in the same context as Soderbergh, as Verhoeven, which is wild because they should be and deserve to be. So yeah, so the feature that I've been working on, the thesis of it does deal a lot with femininity and how it is portrayed on screen, how viewers receive femininity on film, how we receive feminine characters, how we receive masculine characters, and all of that. I learned so much from studying the works of these great filmmakers, specifically Stephanie and Cheryl Dunye, and especially their visual style and their storytelling style. They're both of them make works that are very much about a community and follow several different characters, which is a somewhat different narrative style than we're used to seeing. We're used to the single protagonist, the man up against it all. It was very refreshing to see cool, wonderful, funny films that have a lot that discuss lots of different points of view. And I think while, crafting a feature that is supposed to interrogate our points of view, that was so helpful and insightful. Yeah, and just how to bring that into other pieces of media. Um, yeah, it does feel, it feels like those are films that all filmmakers should watch and study. And, I've never seen them on a curriculum list. Uh, so yeah. Um, yeah, there's just there are things that almost because no one is paying as much attention to them that we get away with soft power, if you will. And it's just beautiful to see that portrayed on film and inspiring. These women kick ass.
Yeah, I think one of like the most like for as much movies as I watch, one of the few most I guess impactful moments for me like engaging with feature films is I took a like feminist literature course and we did
Mm.
um like international films from female directors and like just realizing I it felt like more of a buffet. It wasn't like a concentrated theme or
Mhm.
anything. Like it made me realize like wow, we're missing like everything. Like it's
Yeah.
um yeah. And I kind of get and I think th this kind of ties back to something I said earlier. I get that a lot when I look at your works that compare two works that are very different because like one of them I'll usually have heard of and the other one I'm like, what is this? This is like this is not an unrated, but also unrated does this too. Or it'll be something that is like I hear the name of all the time, like Cheryl Denier's Watermelon Woman, and I could pull the poster out of a lineup because I've seen it, but like other than saying that it is of note, I haven't seen a lot of people. I'll be fair, I haven't like sought it out, but also the fact that people have to do that for certain works is a statement by itself. Like I
Mhm.
haven't seen a lot of interrogation of it in like I guess a more mainstream way. So yeah, yeah, I loved Unrated. I don't think I have to say that. That's why we're here. Um, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask you a very hard question. What video are you most proud of and why? This could be for like a technical reason, like I can't believe I was able to light this. It could be for a writing or a research reason, like anything.
Wow. You're right. That's a hard question. I'll go with what when you ask the question what I felt in my gut, and I'll say the Tar video. Yeah, well, maybe because it's more fresh on my mind. We did it more recently. But yeah, loved I loved looking at that film with an academic lens. I love Kate Blanchett. I loved the performances. I loved its discussion and interrogation of gender and hierarchy and perpetuating the patriarchy within feminine spaces and queer spaces. Yeah, I just thought it was so interesting and layered. But the video was just very, very fun to make. And yeah, we had a lot of fun with the aesthetics of it, playing with the aesthetics that were in the movie, in the video. Um, yeah, that one was very fun. Also, I had a lot of fun with my makeup on that one. So, and that's always a plus.
I I know
Yeah.
you said you're not a professional, but I love like the fact that you change your makeup very usually dramatically um between videos. I haven't seen that one yet because I haven't watched Tar, and like it takes a lot for me to watch any sort of video essay or analysis on something I haven't seen yet, unless I know I'm not gonna watch it. And like
Yes, yeah.
I'm
I
gonna watch Tar one
you
day.
you gotta watch. You just got no.
The memes almost got me. When it became like a meme trend, I'm like, well, now I don't know the joke. I started, I think, to eventually get it by like osmosis, but like,
uh
yeah.
It's so
Um,
good. It's I think that's also why I like it is like there's the movie itself, is very like serious and dry, but it's also like very funny. And part of that is the memes that came from it. And
yeah.
the Lydia Tarr Twitter account is hilarious. Yeah, it's a good there's a lot to oh a feast for the eyes, I'll say.
So you completed Unrated. You're working on a narrative horror film feature right now. Um, and I know, and as you mentioned earlier, you write and are an actor. What are I don't know, long-term goals you have as a creator on Nebula, on YouTube, and like I guess more broadly because you have your hands in so many things. I know you're I think Jesse Gender's film you're also going to be
Yes.
in. And
Yeah.
that's like one thing. I don't want to derail what your goals are, but like that's also on my mind right now.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the working with Jesse was awesome. I'm very excited for identities. That was so fun. She wrote a character that it's very rare as an actor to get to see, let alone like read for, let alone be. So that was a blast. But yeah, I think for the future, I think it'll be interesting. All because, up until this point, and still in this point, YouTube has been a creative outlet. It's been a learning sandbox for myself. it's, been a wonderful way to meet wonderful other creators, like myself. But you know what? It's also been the thing that I use to be able to eat and feed my cats and live in an apartment. And as my career goes on, I think there will just be less pressure for YouTube, to be the thing that I'm surviving off of, which opens the door, I think, for more creative risks on YouTube. And that's not to say that I don't take creative risks. I very much do, and I pay for it. Uh, but yeah, it's very funny because I think, as creatives in the creative field, well, especially since the strike, talking a lot more about like finances. And, part of the reason why there is so much elitism in the film and entertainment industry is because you have to have money to have the time to be creative, which is
Yeah.
wild, but you do. And that's, why so many young creatives are, funded by parents or yada, yada, yada. And if you don't have those built-in resources, then it is so much harder to give time to your creative outlet because you have to survive, you have to make money, you have to work at Instacart and ruin your back and pay for it years later. Speaking from experience. So yeah, all to say is that I'm excited for being able to take more creative risks, being able to talk about more films that less people know. That is one thing, is on our in our video essays, we do have to balance it out with these lesser known films, these films that people like Stephanie Rothman and Cheryl Dunier uh have made, in favor of larger films because more people will click on it, because I need to pay my bills this month. But without having to factor that in, I think it'll be really exciting to be able to talk about um, films that, yeah, maybe not everyone has heard of, which is also another fun reason that we like to do the, comparing two films, one more known, one lesser known. It's a great way to, bring in an audience who maybe has heard of one film, but then also expose them to something that is maybe harder to get their hands on, is less widely circulated. Um, yeah, so there's always a little bit of analysis in that way that goes into planning video essays. And yeah, being able to rely on it less, I think, opens us up more creatively, which actually is across the board. Everyone should have money to live just because they deserve it. But yeah, creatives deserve to have the time to be creative. And one day I hope we live in a society that that agrees with that as well.
Yeah. Where that's not just
Ooh,
a mainstream idea, but then acted upon.
yeah.
Not just like, yeah, we agree, right? Okay, moving on.
Okay, anyways, yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, so hopefully, yeah, in the future, just I guess covering more obscure films. Like, oh, and I mean, besides that, I guess, making movies, obviously. But I guess, if we're thinking specifically Nebula would be to cover things like that. And also being able to talk with other creatives, which we did a little bit with Unrated.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would love to be able to do that more just because yeah, people are so wonderful. And I like sharing them with other people.
I actually found your I guess content. I hate saying the word content, but I'm gonna say it now. I found your content um through a non-movie related thing. Like people
Cool.
had brought you up. I think FD Signifier brought you up. You may have talked with him on stream. I don't remember. Um, you were just like around, and then YouTube was like, you need to watch this Off the Grid Grifters. And I was like, why? I kept getting it
Why?
and I finally watched it. And I was like, I was doing the dishes and I kept stopping what I was doing because my mouth was hanging open. Like, what am I watching? Not like you and your theatrics, which are I love, but also like what you were sharing. I told my partner the next day, like, I have to show you a video. And he was like, I have to show you a video. It was the same video, Maggie. Like,
Oh my
you,
God.
I don't know if YouTube bugged him as much as it bugged me to like where then I took that dive, but we happened to watch it within the same 24 hours separate from each other.
Yeah.
And then when I looked at your other stuff, I was like, oh, she does movies. This is even better because like Off the Grid Lifestyles is was interesting.
Mhm.
And those kind of like niche topics, but like it really seems like even though not to say you weren't enthusiastic about that one, like your heart is in art making, art criticism and analysis. And as someone who's like that, but not with movies because it's intimidating, I don't know. It's it's just it's enjoyable to experience in that way. And then like I definitely feel the level of depth that you go into these topics, mixed with the humor, because humor I think that's how people remember stuff, really changes the way people view maybe it could be like a particular artist or whatever, but like also just art in general and thinking more critically about things. So yeah, I like that. I like that Nebula doesn't focus on algorithm, but also the algorithm gave me Maggie Mae Fish, so I don't hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so, yeah. That's exactly it for sure. Yeah, that was one of the videos that we were like, well, this seems like really niche, but maybe it's interesting. And yeah, we do like a little bit of analysis because yeah, I do think that people very naturally they I mean, we watch movies since, beginning age like 3. We start watching
Hmm.
movies. It's a language we're all very familiar with, whether or not we realize it, which I think we do realize it. It's just, yeah, that like formal academic of, putting words to feelings or putting words to the way that we perceive things. Yeah, is very fun and yeah, it's all around us.
So my final question ish is there anything you want our audience to know? Because like I come to this interview with questions, kind of
Mhm.
expectations, kind of not. I come with expectations and questions, but we probably didn't address something. And this also, I want to open this up to like if your feedback from Unrated, if there's something that like you've been like thinking about regarding that, not me, but like more, well, could be me, more broadly, if there's anything you want to bring to our audience that we didn't touch on, including with Unrated, but not exclusively. Is that easy to
Yeah.
follow?
Oh, yes, yes. I was just thinking, yeah, I think just the thing that I would reiterate is we know what I mean, we is the like royal we, all of us. We know more than we think we know about media, about how we watch movies, about how we watch people, about how movies change the way that we feel or relate to certain things. All of us know the feeling of, watching a movie and just being like awestruck by it and not being able to stop thinking about it for,
Mhm.
days or weeks to come or even years later. And I think that's such a magical, universal experience in the way. I mean, looking back, movies is one type of art that is comparatively easily accessible. And by that, I mean, it's, at least a click away, maybe it's a couple dollars away. Or, back in the movie rental days, you could just like wander up and down the aisles. But,
Yeah.
comparing that to like works of art, seeing them in person is a lot harder. They're, in museums. They're hard to get to.
It's
Obviously,
a flight.
right, it's a flight. Or even like stage plays. Broadway. When I went to school, or college, there was very much a culture shock of just people that lived in places where they could just walk and see like a Broadway show. Like that blew my mind that I guess I knew it existed, but but seeing it in person was just like, wow, this type of art was so inaccessible to me. But I did have movies. Like I could,
You
you
had to
know,
wait for the movie version, like Hairspray, like me.
exactly. I could at least get my hands on something comparable or something similar, or like Fiddler on the Roof. Like,
Hmm.
if there was a movie version of it, I at least had access to it. And that expanded my whole view of the world, of being able to just, experience someone else's thoughts and feelings and ideas through filmmaking. And that's one of the things that is so special about the medium, is how much it creates empathy, and sympathy, and empathy and sympathy for the characters, for the main character. Much like video games, it asks you to put yourself in the place of these characters. It asks you questions about your own response to it. Yeah, it's wonderful. And I think, yeah, all to say is that people, they know that. And I think, yeah, shows like Unrated and, wonderful video essayists like myself and others, I'll name drop Princess yet again, Brode Chanel for the new series. It both teaches, but I think it also reassures people that um they they know more than they think they know. Yeah.
Thank you so much for agreeing with this interview. Sorry, I'm still just processing everything. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, if you want to find me online, I'm on
That sounds
Twitter.
so ominous. I'm sorry. I just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
realized. I
Where
think
can
it's
people
it's very
find you?
common, but I thought about it. I'm like, if somebody that did it, I mean, how would they get to this like interview? But like, if you didn't know, like, yeah, how do you find Maggie?
How do you find me? I'm out there. I'm in the world. I'm wearing a Sasquatch suit. Uh I was just trying to figure, should I call it Twitter or X? Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Maggie.Mae.Fish. I'm on TikTok, which we'll be uploading more to in the future, at Maggie Mae Fish. Blue Sky, Mastodon. Yeah, just my name on all of those. Feel free to follow me. And yeah, I'm excited about future projects, both in the short term and the long term. So happy to have anyone on board. Happy to have any stragglers that just want to stop on by, tip their hat, say hello. You
I wish
come
this was Discord so I could put the little clapping, what is it called? Audio, the soundboard. I've become accustomed to the Discord soundboard.
Club, 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 club.
Yeah.